Hello everyone, Kaoz here, and welcome to another old school RuneScape video. Ever since my 2024 gear progression, a lot of people have asked me if I plan on making a video like that but for irons. My answer was almost always no, but playing on my hardcore more than my main account these past few months has iron pilled me, and that is exactly what today's video is all about. Boys and girls, if this video is useful on your iron journey, make sure to subscribe with notifications on, drop a fat like for the YouTube algorithm, and you can join our Discord server with the link in the description to play with me and our amazing community. Unlike a gear progression for main accounts where you see what levels you are and go to the Grand Exchange to buy weapons and armor according to your budget, irons have to get everything themselves. That is why this will also be an account progression, giving you a reasonable path to follow from starting quests all the way up to raids. Everything you see up to Perilous Moons and the Royal Titans is what I have personally done, and everything after that is what I plan on doing. It gives you a little freedom to explore and to take detours to do whatever you want, because other guides like the one Bodhi is doing will take you by the hand on literally everything. This is great for people who want to rush PVM on a new iron or hardcore, but I feel like it restricts freedom when making choices. If you agree or disagree on anything you see in the video, let me know in the comments to enter our weekly bond giveaway, and with that out of the way, let's begin. Before the gear progression itself, and if you're new to the iron game mode, or wondering where you are, I will divide the account progression roadmap in 3 categories. As expected, these are the early, mid, and the late game. We will talk more about end game soon. Anything you do in your account prior to Barrow's Gloves will be considered the early game. This is where you have the highest amount of freedom because of the amount of quests at your disposal, which could also feel a little overwhelming because there's just so much to do. The stage between Barrow's Gloves and completion of Song of the Elves is what I would personally consider the mid game. You could potentially get a fire cape here if you have good levels, gear, and confidence, and this is where the infamous Corrupted Gauntlet grind will begin. The late game is a little easier to define in my opinion, and anything between a BOFA and raids can be comfortably considered as this stage of your account. More experienced players could say that TOA or Chambers are also late game because of their powerful drops, but for newer players we will be raiding a little later in our path. And finally, the end game is anything that includes higher difficulty raids like Challenge Mode Chamber, the Theater of Blood, and high invocation levels at the Tombs of a Mascot, as well as bosses for endgame gear like Nex. As a reminder, this is what I would personally suggest, but as most of you know, the nature of the game is aiming for whatever you feel confident with. A final thing to note is that we have a lot of new items coming with the release of Sailing. New weapons like a new mid-game rapier coming from a mid-game slayer boss called a Griffin, blowpipes made out of new logs, and much more. Stay tuned for all of the videos I plan on releasing covering the new skill to see if they will be worth it for an iron, or even a main account progression when we start our sailing journey on November 19th. So let's finally get into it. Right off Tutorial Island, I would grab leather gloves and boots for a tiny bit of defensive stats. If you're not a hardcore, I would venture into the Stronghold of Security for our 10k GP to buy some important upgrades. Once out, go to the rock and grab yourself a Staff of Air, runes to cast the low level spells, and you can even buy a Chronicle for quick teleports to the rock with 0 requirements. Just make sure to watch out for the Dark Wizards nearby. One of the most useful early game items is an Ardy Cloak 1. The only level needed for this is 15 Thieving, which is really easy to get, and once you obtain it, you will have unlimited teleports to the Ardy Monastery for free refills to your prayer points. The next segment is not about gear, but something that will massively accelerate our levels, therefore less gear to worry about, and that is a little bit of questing. You can do all of these exclusively with magic, and you will easily level up along the way if you don't want to take a little detour to get some magic levels to hit harder. I did these quests in the following order, which wasn't hard whatsoever, and you can tackle all of them in just a few days or even hours if you're a true scaper. These are Restless Ghost, Witch's Potion, Witch's House, Vampire Slayer, Waterfall Quest, the Fight Arena, Trinium Village, the Tourist Trap to post both reward lamps on agility, the Grand Tree, Merlin's Crystal, Holy Grail, do the Alfred Bar Crawl and get level 31 prior, and finally the Scorpion Catcher. All of these quests will give you the levels you see on screen, which will avoid hours and hours of killing low level monsters. After some questing you can start the Dragon Slayer 1, and the Talking to Duke Horatio will award you with the Anti-Dragon Shield. It is especially useful to avoid the dragon fire, as you want to kill some blue dragons for their bones to level up some prayer. With melee stats in the high 30s or even low 40s, you can start using Adamant Scimitar, which you can get from a quest called The Feud, or the Black Spit in Civitas if you have access to the Kingdom of Valimor. At this point, I had Sapphire, Ruby, and the Diamond Amulets from plundering houses in Civitas, and abusing elemental weaknesses with magic gave me around level 60, which was perfect to enchant them into Amulets of Magic, Strength, and the Power respectively for magic, melee, and ranged. The most important one is the Strength Amulet, and if you're not doing thieving, you can make them yourself and enchant them for decent boost to your strength bonus. Do the quest The Death Plateau to claim a pair of climbing boots, which are still part of a melee gear upgrade coming to the Moon's Apparel, and will be useful until you can get a pair of dragon boots at level 83 Slayer, or 78 with a Wild Pie. An additional upgrade is a set of Proselyte to help preserve prayer points whenever you're using protection prayers, but we can avoid the Slayer for a little bit longer. You can ditch the helmet since we'll be using either Helm of Nithis Knot or the Slayer helmet when you unlock it. This would be a great time to set your sights to a full set of rune armor after completing Dragon Slayer 1. I was able to easily kill Elvark with magic, and you can do so as well with mid-level magic spells like Elemental Bolt. I personally did Monkey Madness 1 before Dragon Slayer 1, but it would be a perfect time to embark on this adventure, since all you need are 2 of the gnome quests and level 43 prayer to use protection melee when going through the tunnel. After the gnomes make a quick work of the demon, you'll be able to buy a dragon scimitar, a staple for quite a long time from the moment you can equip it. I remember buying a full set of Mystic shortly after Monkey Madness 1 and didn't do it before because I was extremely poor. But when you get level 66 magic and enough money, you can buy these 5 items at the Magic Guild in Yanil to be slightly more accurate with magic to blast through more quest bosses. We've been neglecting ranged for quite a long time because you really do not need it until some quests start asking for some levels on this skill. Do the quest The Temple of the Storm and use the experience reward on ranged, granting 10,000 experience giving us level 27. Buy an oak shortbow with some arrows to get 1 more level, which is what we need for our next milestone. After completion of the Lost the Tribe quest, we are buying a bone crossbow and a bunch of bone bolts, perfect for early game ranged training. You can also buy studded body and chaps and a coif from shops around the map to help you with accuracy, and at level 30 we can make a set of snakeskin armor by killing snakes in Fossil Island and collecting their hide. If you don't have it already, this is also the perfect time to do the quest Animal Magnetism, giving us access to Ava's devices. We will use the Ava's Attractor from levels 30 to 50, and come back for an upgrade once we reach this level. What I did next was AFK the Gemstone Crab for quite a few ranged levels, and with a Bone Crossbow you can get to level 40 super comfy. With Dragon Slayer 1 done and a little bit of GP, you can get yourself a set of Green Dragon hide from the shops. Not a gear upgrade, but at level 40 ranged is needed for you to do the quest The Temple of Ikov. Shortly after, I did the Underground Pass after training Agility up to 60 to get better chances at navigating through the maze, and after this quest you get the Ivan Staff, which I used for the Deranged Archaeologist. I then took on a few of the Fremennik quests, going for the Fremennik Trials and the Fremennik Isles to unlock the iconic Nithis Knot helmet. You also have access to both the Archer and the Farseer helmet for ranged and magic for a side grade helmet. I then focused a little bit on melee, going for 65 attack and strength to enter the Warriors Guild. After obtaining quite a few tokens, I embarked on the Dragon Defender grind, which didn't really take long as I got spooned a few defenders. Barbarian Assault was next, and I went on a few runs with the wonderful BA helpers in our community to get Torso in around an hour. This was a staple item in my setup for quite a while until the Moon's Apparel. This is all the gear I needed to do the Legends quest, one of the 2 hard requirements for Recipe for Disaster. After this, you can buy a Legends Cape for slightly better defensive stats, and one of the best looking items from ancient times. Another cape upgrade you can do at this time is a God Cape, which is an easy skip if you're a hardcore. The Arty Cloak 1 will still do well for defensive and prayer bonuses, but you will eventually need it for the Imbued Cape at level 75 magic. At this point I remember doing Desert Treasure, which is the other hard requirement for Recipe for Disaster. Even as a hardcore, it's not as nerve-wracking as I thought it would be, since I did it all the way back in 2018 with barely any stats. One of the final ranged upgrades I remember doing was completing a few hard clues for a magic shortbow, and paired with adamant or rune arrows from LMS, you have the perfect set of items to train up to our next ranged level needed. An alternative to the magic shortbow will be the new blowpipes coming with a release of Sailing. Camp 4 needs level 45 ranged, 55 for Ironwood, and 65 for Rosewood. They all require increasing fletching levels to create and use all long darts like the classic Toxic Blowpipe, and it's only a matter of time to see where these resources are located to know if it's worth it taking a little shortcut to make these weapons out of new logs on these islands. At level 50, I actually got the final upgrade for the style before I went on to the Moon's Apparel, an Avas accumulator which has a better ammo pickup rate. You don't really need to upgrade it until after Dragon Slayer do, so this will sit comfortably in your bank. I did the fire cape on my hardcore with a bone crossbow at level 50, which took 4 hours, but realistically you can get it whenever you want. Whether it be here or before you go to the moons, the second best slot melee cape is easier than ever to obtain. So if you're having problems with it, go watch my 2025 guide. If you have the crafting level or the patience, and depending on your ranged level, you can make mixed hide boots, red dragonhide armor, or do more hard clues for black dragonhide armor. This is only needed for a bit of training up to level 75, but honestly it will only represent a tiny boost in accuracy versus whatever monster you decide to kill. This is when I got the final requirement for Recipe for Disaster. All of those fights were a little nerve-wracking on the hardcore, but I remember playing it safe and securing the Barrow's gloves on stream. After RFD, Barrows was next on the list, and for it, I did the quest Defender of Varrock, got a zombie axe, and level up to 70 smithing thanks to the Mother Lode Mine and the Giant's Foundry for our best in slot weapon so far. Before moons, we gotta wait until sailing to see if it's worth grinding for the new rapier, which will serve as the stab equivalent to the zombie axe. I guess it will do pretty well against the Eclipse Moon and may speed up the process. You should already have the quest The Lost City, and the shop all the way east of Xanaris has a Dragon Dagger for you. Buy one to use on Aram and Carol, since I used air spells on all of the other melee brothers for quicker kills. Another step not related to gear, but you can get level 78 magic, boost to 83 with a red spicy stew for a +5, and build a portal to Barrows in your POH. Otherwise the trek there will be absolutely abysmal. With your air spells, Zombie Axe and DDS in hand, do the Barrows brothers until you get at least a tanky plate body and legs. I lucked out with the Darok plate body and the Gotham's chain skirt in under 60 KC, so that was my best slot for the next step. The final thing I did before heading to moons was kill the ranged archaeologist for the steel ring. The superior defensive stats give you better survival rate at moons, and it won't really take that long for you to obtain. If you want a little more DPS but less defense, you can instead go to the Dagonot Kings to hopefully snag a Berserker ring. I haven't gone for this yet because I preferred the steel ring as a hardcore, but regular irons may want to come here too. You are then going to stay at the Moon's Apparel until you get all the items from there. Ideally you want to spoon the maracas early to melt the blue moon, but this will be your home for the next few days or weeks depending on how hard you go. It is very likely that you bank 70 prayer before you obtain all of the items. If you do, use all of the bone shards and bone drops at the Libiation pool with Blessed Sunfire Wine, and do the King's Ransom quest to unlock Piety for a massive boost in DPS. I greenlogged the moons at the 311 KC, obtaining all pieces of the Eclipse and Blue Moon in around 220 KC. I did then solo Blood Moon runs for a little longer after a dry streak of 80 chests, but I locked out on stream getting 2 remaining pieces in the final 10 chests. This is where I'm currently at the time of writing this video. And for a little upgrade, I'm going for 83 Hunter to scout for Dragon Implings to try to spoon a Dragonstone amulet to turn it into an Amulet of Glory. If you don't feel like skilling, you can wait until the Amulet of Fury at 85 crafting and 82 magic. Another good side grade to aim for would be a Slayer helmet, and this is my plan after an Amulet of Glory to put my Moon's gear to good use. You need level 69 Slayer for Monkey Madness 2 anyway, so better chip away at that requirement at some point. An item you can get anywhere between this point and maybe the late game is the Antler Guard. This new offhand weapon will help all 3 combat styles with reduced defensive stats, although the Slayer level requirement for it is relatively high. If you focus on Slayer before any other major benchmarks, this item will surely be useful for more accuracy. The perfect step after the moons are the Royal Titans. Both Blood and the Eclipse Moon items will carry you through the fight, and the first thing we're looking for are the Deadeye and the Mystic Vigor prayer scrolls to upgrade your ranged and magic DPS further. You can stay at Titans until the Twin Flame Staff, which will be an insane item whenever you need to abuse elemental weaknesses, and depending on your RNG, you might get it before the prayers. These two are crucial before we move on in our adventure. An additional upgrade to the Twin Flame Staff is a Warped Scepter, dropped by warped creatures after the Path of Glufri quest. This powered staff will be your go-to whenever you're not using elemental spells on enemies. Regardless of which staff you stick with, you could potentially go for a Mage's Book from the Mage Training Arena. I think no other item is worth the hassle until the Word of Elidness, all the way into the late game. Something you could do with your new Blood Moon set, which I'm in no rush to do, is hit up the Waycoatl for the Dragon Hunter wand, the Tome of Earth, and the possibly Waycoatl armor for the Clue Steps. This will also give you some Waska seeds for potions. After Titans and or the Scepter, I'm personally grinding to 69 fletching to boost to 74 with Spicy Stews to make a Sunlight Hunter crossbow and the Sunlight bolts. It will be a great alternative for range since Eclipse set won't always be the perfect options for Slayer or quest bosses. This is where the mid-game ends because we now have all of the tools we need to do Song of the Elves. After getting all of the requirements and the defeating Saren, we have access to Prifinus, which will be our home for the next weeks or even months. I am personally going to stay at the Corrupted Gauntlet until I get the Enhanced Crystal Weapon Seed and 6 Armor Seeds to create the Bow of Ferdinian and the Crystal Armor. Thankfully, we don't need the Chamber Sprayer Scrolls anymore, and this is our welcoming party to the late game. After the Corrupted Gauntlet, you will have enough money and the magic levels to get yourself an Onyx from the Tazar Gem Shop, and make the iconic Amulet of Fury. This will help in all 3 combat styles until another grind coming up in a bit. This is where I would personally say that the game is wide open for you to do whatever you want, so from here on out and until the end game, this is what I've been told is a good path to follow, as well as what I will be personally doing long term on my Iron. Let us know in a comment what your plan would be after the Corrupted Gauntlet. This is not really needed anymore, especially for irons, but if you want to take your Bofa for a spin, you could do the Grardor Door method to try to go for Bandaged Chestplate and Tacits, but in reality, Blood Moon set will still be useful. If you haven't done the quest The Haunted Mine, and the mini-quest The Lair of Tarned Resolver, do it now to unlock the Salva Amulet Enchanted, and then hit up the Nightmare Zone, Zol Wars or PvP Arena to imbue it because our next step gets spicy. Something I'll personally be doing prior to our next grind is getting full Void Armor. I'll try to get the hard Western Diary 2 for the Elite variant, since it will be super useful in general, but more importantly for what's next. We are doing Dragon Slayer 2 next and doing a maximum of 50 Vorkath KC for his head. Once obtained, take it to Ava for her to combine it with your accumulator and turn it into the Ava's Assembler, the second best in slot ranged cape in the game. We are doing as much Slayer as possible in the Catacombs of Kourend, since we want the Arclight next, which will be our best in slot for our following grind. An absolutely crucial step in every Ironman account and the gear progression. We are doing While Gothic Sleeps, and our next long-term grind is Tormented Demons. I will personally be staying here until I get the 3 synapses for the Ember Light, Scorching Bow, and the Purging Staff, as well as a pair of Burning Claws to create the item. We are now doing Monkey Madness 2, and with our powerful Demon Bane weapons and the Black Demon task whenever we can, we are killing demonic gorillas until we have 4 Senites for all 4 pieces of jewelry. I'd say the order of importance is the Necklace of Anguish, the Tormented Bracelet, an Amulet of Torture, and the Ring of Suffering can go anywhere you want, especially if you are going for a bit of Zulrah. And speaking of the Money Snake, this is exactly where we are going next. I will be doing it until I get a Blowpipe, but if you want to avoid coming back here in the future, you can stay until you get a Serpentine Helmet and a Magic Fang. This is what I'll personally be doing next. And with a Bofa and the Crystal Armor, Zenyte Jewelry, a Dragon Hunter Wand, and some additional supplies, I will be going for the Infernal Cape. You can do this whenever you feel like challenging yourself, but at this point, you should have everything you need. If you don't feel confident enough though, and if you're not hardcore, this would also be the perfect time to get an Imbued Magic Cape. I was neglecting it for a while because the slot wasn't too important for the previous grinds, but we unlock a new Peasant slot in the Wilderness. We are ready for a big step, and this would be a decent time to start grinding for a Dragon Warhammer to get even more ready for raids. Hit up the Lizardman Shamans at the Shazian Cannon or the Temple for single combat. This is the point where I would want to focus on Slayer for quite a long time to close out some important upgrades before raids and the 2 other bosses coming up. Dragon Boots are up first, so try to snag a spiritual creature task from your preferred Slayer master. We can kill Abyssal Demons at level 85 Slayer, and we are finally upgrading our Zombie Axe to one of the most iconic items in the history of the game. The most important upgrade will be to your attack speed, improving from 5 ticks all the way to 4 for better DPS. After 85 comes 87, and our next stop is the Kraken. The important item here is a Trident of the Seas, and if you're lucky enough to snag a Kraken Tentacle, you could possibly upgrade your Abyssal Whip into a Tentacle for superior stats. If you have a Magic Fang from Zulrah, you could also upgrade the Trident. The second highest Slayer level requirement will be to slay Smoke Devils. Killing the baby version or the thermonuclear smoke devil will eventually give you the occult necklace, the best in slot magic amulet in the game. This is what I'll be doing next, but depending on how much you're itching for high level PVM, you could hit up the Doom of Mokayotl next. In order of importance, we have the Eye of the Ayak, the Confliction Gauntlets, and the Avernic Threads. The Jordans are nice, but not as big as a DPS upgrade as the other two. Up next I would go to Yama for that incredibly powerful Oath Plate armor, and the Vial Transfer Scroll for double death charge. Yama and the Doom could be interchangeable, or you could even skip Yama until later, but it will have to be done at one point or another. Before the endgame, I would do another block of Slayer. At 91, we can do Cerberus for her crystals to make Primordial, Pegation, and Eternal boots, and if you have the Avernic Threads by now, or when you get them, you can feed it with the previous Jordans to make the ultimate boots in the entire game. At level 92, we can start Araxor to farm the Noxious Halberd and the Araxite Fang for the powerful Amulet of Rancor. If you have the Occult Necklace at this point, you shouldn't worry about levels since 93 is needed for Smoke Devils. Our final Slayer upgrade for now is a pair of Ferocious Gloves. The Alchemical Hydra will drop Hydra Leather, which you can use at one of the machines at the Lithgrin, for the best in slot melee gloves at the time of making this video. Before we hit up the end game and start raiding, I would try to achieve the Dishonest Quiver since we have most of the tools at our disposal to give the Fortress Colosseum a run for its money, and then we can beat the Soul Heredit in a clean fight. Just like the Infernal Cape, I put this here as an alternative, but you don't need to do either that or the Quiver until much later or after raids. Like I said after the Corrupted Gauntlet, you can do any raid you feel like starting with, and you can even do some easier challenges like normal TOA or regular chambers a lot earlier. But this is how I personally tackle this final stage. I'd start with the Tombs of a Mascot and grinding for the Fang, the Lightbearer, the Word of Elitness, and a full set of Masori. You could try entry mode tombs a lot earlier for the Thread of Elitness, but you can play around with invocations to suit your levels and gear. This step is also interchangeable. I would then grind the Desert Treasure to bosses for pieces of virtues and their powerful rings. The Altar Ring is the most important one, but if you want the Soul Reaper Axe, you could potentially end up with all 4 rings when you're done with the grind. Again, something you can do a little earlier is the Chambers of Sharing, and we got a ton of useful items from Old School's first ever raid. I've seen a lot of people go super dry here, especially Irons, so this is not something you may want to do until you snag all of the items after beating Ulm. My second to last long-term grind would be next, so we can try our luck at Pieces of Torva. But more importantly, that Zerite crossbow after combining an Armadil crossbow and a Nihil horn with a bunch of Nihil shards. We can then hit up the Theater of Blood, and like I said many times before, you can do this a little earlier or if you are done with most of your grinds. Stay here until you get a powerful Scythe of Atur or all the other pieces that will help you out in your adventure. The actual end game for any Iron account would be to snag all 3 mega weapons. So when you have achieved every important item on the gear progression, you can focus on other niche bosses like the Corporeal Beast for the shields, the Nightmare for Inquisitor, and the pieces of the staves. So ladies and gentlemen, that's pretty much it for this video. I hope you enjoyed and you learned something useful. If you did, tell me anything about the gear progression below, and if you include the term RSN and your username in your comment, you'll be entered in our weekly bond giveaway for which we will pick a winner on Friday's stream. A massive thank you to all the people you see on screen for supporting this channel monetarily. All your contributions go towards my wife and my puppy to keep them happy and well fed, as well as an animal shelter we help every month. If you like what I do here, consider clicking the join button below to see all of the cool perks and benefits you can get in the videos, in the live streams, and of course in the Discord for a monthly fee. In the next one, we will have our final video before sailing, going over every bit of information you need to know to be ready for the new skill. For now, I hope you have an amazing day, have an amazing week, and I will see you then. Peace.